What is happening, guys? It is Tuesday and we are at the Hack and Pack shop. A few of you have been asking me for a video on how to check over a used car before you buy it. Say you're interested in something and you really want to buy it, but you just really don't know what to look for. Alright, so spend a little time with me today, guys. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing, things like that. We're going to go over some different issues on a few different vehicles that are here, on things to look for. We're going to take a little ride in one of them. I'm going to show you some issues in a couple of them, what to look for in the body, what to look for mechanically. From a classic car to a modern day car, okay? I have a 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix sitting here that actually belongs to the car lot, and he brought it here for a couple little things. The rocker panels have some issues and things like that, so we're going to use this car as a prime example, okay? We're going to look at it prior to any body work. We're going to look at it mechanically. We're going to take it for a test drive. We're going to listen for things, okay? So this is going to be our prime example, okay? I'm also going to show you a couple things on this Cavalier. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple things on this F150, and there's also a 1983 Mustang GT in here I want to show you a couple things on too. Okay, so basically we're just going to kind of pick apart these cars a little bit, okay, but primarily we're going to concentrate on this 2002 Grand Prix because it's a very common car. You know, it's something most people are looking for, four-door sedans, things like that. You know, it is 02, so it's not that old even though it's a 10-year-old car. So just bear with me here a little bit, guys. I'll get the other camera set up and then we're just going to start going over some things. Alright, guys, the first vehicle we're going to check over is this 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix. It's a little windy out here, guys, so bear with me. Hopefully you can hear the audio okay. Just walk around the car, give it a visual inspection. Okay, I mean, most people, they look at cars, they walk around, they look at the body, you know, see if it's rusted or dented up, things like that, just basic stuff. Okay. This car doesn't look too bad, okay, but I am starting to see some things that are definitely going to be a little bit of an issue for you guys to look at. Alright, you got stuff like the obvious, like this hood, okay, looks like they bumped into something. The lip here is just a little bit screwed up, okay, but there's been no body filler there, so that's a pretty obvious thing, okay. You look down here at the door line, and where the door and the fender meet. Obviously there's been some rubbing issues here. Kind of typical on these kinds of cars. These cars take a real light bump in the front. The fenders always seem to roll in a little bit and the doors always hit them. It's a very simple fix, okay? And I'll show you guys basically, you know, what you can do with that maybe in another video, okay? Common thing on these cars, especially up north, are rocker panels. This car has had rocker panel work done to it, okay? Somebody's basically put something in here, who knows what. All body filler, okay? Basically they went over the top of the rotted rocker with some body filler, okay, chip guarded it and painted it. Alright, I mean, you can't just walk up to a car lot and peel pieces of the panel off, okay, but it is evident and very obvious that there's been work done to it, okay? So that's one thing to look for. Always look at the rocker panels on any car, trucks even, especially up north. They rot out, okay? You have a little bit of rust starting here on this edge, okay? My guess is the car at one time maybe had a little bit of paint work done on the bottom of it, and they just didn't put quite enough paint here in this particular spot, okay? Not a huge deal, alright? It's not through. Nothing to really worry about. It's obvious, okay? It's something you can see. Always look at the wheel wells in the car. Take your hand and get up in the back side of it like this and feel. And if you could feel good metal, you know that it's not all rotted out in this section. Okay? If you put your hand up there and it feels real lumpy, or you feel rust or a lot of scale, you know it's had some previous work done here. Another thing on these GMs is right around this filler door, okay? A lot of these rot out. This panel has been painted, but it doesn't sound like there's any body filler in here. Okay, just take your fingers and tap on it, knock on it. Alright, you will hear if there's body filler. It'll sound like you're knocking on a wooden door. This, you can hear the tin in it. This is okay. A little bit of rust there, not a huge deal. This gas door has been painted. It's probably been replaced. Due to rust is my best guess. Alright, there's some new rivets there that are not factory. Okay. Gas door's been replaced. They're known to rot out. Actually, is what happens is they rot out on the inside of this hinge here, and the things are always flopping around. Alright, if you see that, the gas door needs to be replaced. Generally a cheap fix, okay? We'll walk around to this quarter panel. Now if you look here, you can see, hopefully the camera's picking up, just got kind of a weird little wobble here. Alright, there's been some body work, there's been some filler work done here. You can see, hopefully you can see where the paint's cracked. Okay, that's definitely had a little bit of body filler here. And another good way to tell if a car's had paint work done is just look at the thing. I mean, if it's 4 different colors of the same color, you know that obviously it's been in an accident, it's been touched up, it's been rusted, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times too, guys, I mean, it could be just simple damage like this, and to fix these two pieces, you have to paint the entire panel, unfortunately. Okay, so a lot of times the damage that might have been covered up is as minute as that, or it could be something severe like a huge dent or even rust. Okay? Another thing to look at is the bottom of the doors. A lot of cars up here in the north are known for the doors to rot out. Alright, look at that. Just peel up this rubber. Just take your finger and pull it up. Look at what you got going on here. Okay? Rust. That's a lot of thing that people overlook, is the insides of doors and rocker panels. They walk around the car, they look at everything that's eye level, and they don't really take the time to look down. A lot of times too is what places do to cover up rust is they'll paint, say, the bottom of the car black. Alright, black is not a common color for a lower color on a two-tone. Only most cases if the thing's had extensive body work or rust work done to the bottom of it. And black is a dark color, and it does hide a lot on a lower panel. Okay? So if you look at a car like this and say from here down it's black and looks kind of rough, chances are they're hiding a lot of rust. And it will come back. Alright, now we're going to check over the inside of the car. Just look for any visible wear, alright, on the seats. Right here, generally they'll rip, okay. Higher mileage cars, maybe a car that says it's got 70,000 miles and the seat's all tore up here, you might want to question that. Another thing to look at too, looks like this panel's dropping down, is how much wear is on the brake pedal. Alright, if you can see this, see the corner of that brake pedal is wore right off it? Okay, that's generally a good sign of having a higher mileage car. This car, I believe, has got about 110,000 on it, but we'll take a double look. But if you see a car that's only got 30,000 and the brake pedals wore off like that, you might want to Carfax it and make sure the mileage is on cue, okay? Alright, yeah, this car's got 112,000 miles on it. This car hasn't been run yet today, so we're going to do a cold start. We're going to listen to the engine, okay? You want to look for check engine lights, anti-lock brake lights. Okay, a lot of times with an anti-lock brake light, it's either an ABS sensor or it could be potentially a bad wheel bearing. Okay, and a lot of times the ABS sensors are built into the wheel bearings. Usually they're a couple $100 and up to have them replaced, especially in this style because it's a whole hub assembly. They're not cheap. Okay, the traction light off is another good sign that there's a problem either with the ABS system. Okay? That's a typical thing on GMs. If you see the traction off, okay, and it will not shut off, that is generally either an ABS problem or potentially a bad wheel bearing. Now let's look under the hood. You know, a lot of times I see on Craigslist too, a car for sale, check engine light's just a sensor. Well, some sensors, guys, are hundreds and hundreds of dollars to have replaced. So you might just want to, you know, have somebody scan it and see what sensor it is. I mean, I've seen those two sensors that are up to $300–400 to have them replaced. And if they're not fixing those sensors to sell the car, you know there's a reason behind it. Like it costs way too much to do it, so they're like, screw it, sell the car. Alright, the engine sounds good. It's a 3100. Okay, these are generally pretty damn good engines. They have been known for intake gaskets, okay? Now, evidently on this one, the intake gaskets and things like that have been done. Alright, so we're going to shut this thing off and we're just going to check a couple things out. Well, while it's running, we're going to check the transmission oil. Alright, most cars you have to check the transmission oil when it's running. Okay? It is up, but you see the color of the fluid? It almost looks like it's oil. Alright, so it is, the transmission oil is either due to be changed or transmission failure is right around the corner. Is what discolors oil and transmission fluid is actually metal particles. Okay? The fluids start to break down a little bit, things start to wear, and especially on transmission fluid, it should be a transparent red color. Alright, and if it's dark brown or black, or it looks like it has a real metallic-y look to it, a lot of times, guys, it's not good. Okay? I'm going to shut it off. We'll grab a rag real quick and we'll check the oil. Alright, we're just going to pull this dipstick out. You always got to check your engine oil while the car is shut off. Most transmission oils you check while the car is running. Okay? We'll just stick it back in there, we'll pull it back out, and we'll take a look. Now it is possible also, guys, on this transmission oil that it is original fluid. Okay, and original fluid will look like that after 112,000 miles. So it's not really a bad idea to get it changed. Now this thing is showing that it's got very little oil in it. Okay, so it's probably due for an oil change. I mean, the oil is black, okay? Which means that it's probably due for an oil change. Which means this car might use a half a quart of oil in between oil changes, which isn't a terrible, terrible thing. Okay? Then we have a sign like this here. This is a coolant leak. It looks like maybe it's had some stop leak put in it at one time. Okay, and I'm going to make sure the dealer is aware of this, because he does not definitely want this thing coming back for warranty issues. Now apparently, according to the previous owner, this car has had intake gaskets, head gaskets, things like that done to it. Okay? Let's check the coolant. Never check it while it's hot, guys. Always check it while it's cool. Okay, and you can check it on this particular car right here. You can look down and check it. But I also want to look at the inside of the radiator cap. Alright, it doesn't look too bad. Okay, but it looks like at one time they did use some silver seal or some copper seal on it. Alright, so there is a sign here that this thing has had some previous problems with the cooling system. You want to look for any evident oil leaks. Look underneath the car where it was sitting all night. See if there's any drops under it. Okay? Take the steering wheel when you start the car up and run that power steering back and forth. Each way. Make sure there isn't any binding. This one feels excellent. Okay? Also check the heater and air conditioning systems to make sure that they're working properly. Okay? Now a lot of times too, guys, where you can get fooled, in the fall or the winter time, AC will blow cool. If it's, say, 40 degrees out and you turn the AC on, it's going to blow cold because it's just drawing in outside air. Okay? You definitely want to check AC at least when it's 75, 80 degrees out. Alright, run your heater controls up and down. Make sure it blows heat. Make sure it blows cool. Make sure all of your settings on the heater work. You know, it's on defrost. Defrost always blows out the top. Okay? Put it on heat. Okay? It always blows out the bottom. You can put it on heat or or vent. Make sure it's blowing out here. Just one thing to look for, guys. Always check your power windows. Make sure they go up and down freely, all of them. Generally, it costs $200 to have a window regulator replaced. So if that window's not working, it's probably a $200 repair. All the windows are working. Make sure the power locks work. Now this car's got a safety feature on it where it will not lock if the keys are in ignition. So take the keys out of the ignition, try the power locks. Okay. Another thing you want to look for is trunk. You always want to look in the trunk. Why, you ask? Because a lot of times cars will have a leak, a water leak. Okay, it looks like we have some new headlights in here that we have to change also. Good thing I did open the trunk because I would have forgot. On most General Motors cars, a spare tire is in the bottom of the trunk. lot of times it's not a bad idea just to take a minute or two and unscrew this forever long freaking bolt here and look down in there. Make sure the spare tire's in there, make sure the jack's in there, okay? Make sure it's not wet down in there, there's no standing water, okay? I mean, I know it's all common sense stuff, but a lot of people forget to look at that stuff, okay? Then I gotta put this mile-long freaking bolt back in there, which sucks. But yeah, make sure there's a spare tire in it. I mean, you don't want to get caught on the highway with no spare. It'll cost you $150 to have a tow truck come out, if not more, to put a used rim and tire on your car so you can get that sucker home or even get it towed. It's all stuff you got to keep in mind, guys. Look around here. See if the sheet metal's all straight. See if you see any real crazy hammer marks. Now, a lot of times, most cars from the factory, they are sloppy with a seam sealer like this. Okay, so that's normal to see that. Okay? But if you see any weird wrinkles, you know, rusted out weird in here, you know, take a second look at it. The car could have been hit in the back. Okay? So there's just the basic things to look for, okay? Unless you're going to get underneath the thing, crawl around and check things out. Okay? You want to take it down the road. You want to make sure everything's tight. Grab a hold of the tires and shake the tires, the tops of the tires. If it feels a little bit loose, all right, you could have a problem. Okay? All right, for more body damage, I'm going to use this 1983 Mustang GT as a good example. Okay? Buddy of mine bought this car. He's got it in a shop here. I'm helping him do the body work and paint work and things like that. He bought the car knowing that it's been in an accident. Obviously, this fender was a different color. Okay, it had a little bit of a damage on the bottom of the door. It had a little bit of damage on the lower rocker panel. Okay? All given stuff. All right? Very obvious. Is what he did not see when he bought this car, and he knows these cars extremely well. If you guys look underneath the hood of this car, just quick, you really don't see a whole lot going on. It looks normal other than missing some fender bolts. Okay, well, evidently, obviously, it's been hit here. Okay, it's missing bolts. They did a half-assed job putting it together. Nothing's lining up really 100%. Okay, so it makes you kind of wonder, well, what's up? Look at the other side. All right, well, there's a fender bolt here. There's no bolt here. And there's a bolt back there. Well, you're looking where there's no bolt. It's like, well, gee, there isn't even a clip there to put the bolt in. And then you look a little bit more and you're like, man, look at all that bad welding. And you see it's all wrinkled in here, like somebody's actually taken a hammer and tried to beat all this back into shape. All right, and then I looked even further and I said to my buddy, I said, well, look at this. You see where there's no paint here? All right, when they paint these cars, they're generally, you know, the doors are hung on them, the fenders are on them, the hoods are on them, okay, and they just spray them. Well, there's no paint here, and there's a huge gap, okay? Well, I looked, this whole strut tower is pushed in. Take 2 fingers, all right? Stick it there. Stick your 2 fingers there, or a finger, whatever. And then I went over here to the other side in the same exact spot. Kind of tough with a prop rod there, but you see my fingers are hanging over the edge? The strut tower is pushed in a ½ inch. It's something that he totally overlooked. And he is an experienced car guy, okay? But sometimes you just don't look for that stuff. When you're looking at a car, you want to drive it down the road, make sure it runs good, stops good, steers good, shifts good. You know, you overlook a lot of things in the body. Well, this car at one point of its life has been in a major accident, okay? Unbeknown to him. All right, he didn't pay a ton of money for the car, or I think he did some kind of trade deal or something like that. So he's not that concerned about it. I mean, it is, you know, it's what, a, you know, 30-year-old car, okay? But not a big deal. And another thing on these Mustangs, too, to look for, especially if they're T-top cars, is to look for rot in the roof, all right? Very common, all right? It looks like there's nothing going on this side. It's clean. Okay, but this side, it had just a bunch of bubbles here. And I cut all this out, and it was all rotted steel that somebody had previously fixed, okay? You got to look for stuff like this. On these cars also, look at the hatches. See if they're all rotted out. You know, look at the lip underneath. This one's a little bit scaly, but it's still a solid hatch. It is a salvageable hatch. Okay? On the driver's side around the windshield, just little teeny pinholes. If you can see those little specks there, they're just little teeny bubbles, guys. A lot of those little teeny bubbles are already a rust hole, okay? I mean, look what we got here. Somebody already packed it, put a bunch of body filler in there, you know, painted it at one time and said, oh, good enough. All right, it's hard to pinpoint stuff like that. But the first evidence is to look at these little teeny specks of rust, okay? All right, another thing to look for. I have this 2002 Cavalier here that I'd given to my daughter. And a couple little things that I, you know, knew that didn't really bother me, but I'm going to show you one of them. All right, driver's door. You can pick up and down on that door. All right, it needs new bushings, new pins and bushings in the doors. Okay, these are not always an easy job. They require special tools. That's a $200 fix, okay, to fix that sloppy door. For me to do it, I mean, for the parts, it's like 20 bucks. So pick up on the door, grab a hold of the door, pick it up and down, make sure they're tight, okay? Another thing too, which will start the car up, I want you guys to hear something in the steering, okay? Start the car up and turn the wheels back and forth. All right, see if you guys hear a noise. You guys hear that binding? That's one of the reasons why you guys always want to turn the wheels back and forth when the car is sitting still. Now this particular car just needs an upper strut mount, okay? It's on a, like what they call a rotator plate. It's a spinnable bearing, okay, which is right there. I mean, that job, if I was to fish that out and have somebody do it, would be $150 plus dollars, even though it's a $30 part, okay? But that's something that needs to be changed. Is it unsafe right now? No, it's not. But it can be a problem, so that's something you definitely have to address. And another thing, while we got the hood open on this car, look at the strut towers, okay? Take a look at them, see if there's any rot around these strut towers. This car has none, okay? But take a look around, make sure they're not all rotted out in this area. If they are, they will not pass a safety inspection, okay? They're deemed dangerous. They have to be taken off the road. Alright, so open the hood and look for, you know, rot, real heavy, scaly rust or even holes, okay? This car is pretty clean under the hood. The yellow really enhances on how clean it really is. Okay, but at the same time, you look at this side of the car, it don't look too bad, right? Well, I had done some poor body work on this car on purpose. For one, just so it looked halfway decent to present it to my daughter, and for two, so I can make a video like this for you guys. Okay, you look down here, you can see that the paintwork isn't quite right. It looks a little wobbly. There's some pinhole, you know, so there's some pits in the paint. Okay, there was a big hole here. I just very quickly welded in a piece of steel, went over it with one coat of filler, took some 80 grits, you know, sandpaper, sanded it down, and just spray painted over the top of it. All right, just to make it look good for a minute. Okay, but I'm going to show you what it was on the other side prior. So always look for mismatched paint like this, where actually I spray painted over the top of this just to make it look better for a minute. Okay, to have that bumper painted, that's $200 to $300 plus to have a job like that done. Keep all this in mind when you're looking at a car. All right, now you look at this side of the car where there hasn't been any work performed, but it looks like that it's been spray painted. Well, it don't look too bad from 5 feet away, right? It's not bad. Well, guess what? It's a hole. Look at that. See, there's tape over it. It's all rotted out. Body filler in there. Alright, if you see anything going on like that on the bottom of a car, you'd know it's probably 9 times out of 10 going to be a hole. Okay? In this particular car, just about every panel has been painted. Okay, none of the yellows are really the same on the car. The front fender's a different yellow than the door. The back, the quarter panel's a different yellow than the roof. Okay, there's peeling going on over here. Alright, and you think, well, gee, it's not a big deal. I can just have the car painted, right? Okay, well, say this car was sitting somewhere on Craigslist for sale for $2,000 and you just wanted to use it for a driver. Perfect, if you're not going to put any money into painting the car. But think about it. It's going to cost you $2,000 to paint this car. So if you buy it for $2 grand, you're going to spend $2,000 to paint it. You're going to have $4,000 into a $3,000 car. You might as well, in the first place, just buy a car that needs less work and spend a little bit more money for it. Okay? Alright, then our next example. We have a 2005 Ford F150 that belongs to a friend of mine here. Nice truck. You walk around it, don't look too bad. Okay, I just painted the bottom of it for him again because he got it all scratched up. Okay? Not a bad looking truck. It's a 2005. You wouldn't expect anything, right? Well, look up there inside of that box. There's a hole there. It's an 05. A lot of people don't think to look inside the boxes, or a truck has a bed liner on it. You know, try to look underneath that bed liner. Open up that tailgate. A lot of times if there's a bed liner here, you can pull up on it with your hand and kind of get down and look under there. Look in the seams. Okay? This has got a particularly clean seam on it, even though it is dirty, but I mean it's clean when it comes to rust. Okay? Look inside of the seams on these things. You know, make sure the tailgate opens and shuts good. It doesn't bind. Okay? Look up underneath it. See if there's any frame damage. Any real heavy rust. I mean, this truck, you know, for 2005, this is normal for, you know, a Western New York vehicle. Okay? But a lot of these trucks are known to rot out up in here. Alright, get up in there and take a look. Crawl underneath it. Look in between the cab and the box. Alright, this one's a particularly bad example, but a lot of them you can look in between the two and you can see if the front of the box is rotted out, even if it's got a bed liner in it. Open up the doors, again, see if there's any rot, okay? Make sure your back doors work on it. A lot of these trucks that aren't used a lot, where the back doors aren't used, they're bound up. Guys, sometimes you got to replace those latches. They're a couple $100 a piece. Alright, look at the seat. This is a 90,000 mile truck. Look at the seat on it. So you know the truck hasn't been really that well taken care of. Okay, it's been worked. The inside's dirty on it, which we're going to clean it up, but still it's going to have a ripped seat when it's done. Okay? Muddy floorboards. You know it's been used and abused. Okay? This is a mechanic-owned vehicle, and a lot of times us body guys and mechanics are harder on vehicles than other people. Look at under the hood. It's dirty. Okay, which we're going to clean all that up. Look at your battery connections. Okay, this one's corroded. Okay? That all needs to be cleaned up. Alright? One of these days this truck may not start because of that connection. So, you know, you can pretty much look at a vehicle and tell if it's been maintained or not, and this one's been poorly maintained. Okay? It's got an aftermarket grill on it. Alright? This truck has been in an accident at one time, and he was able to get an aftermarket grill cheaper than a factory OEM grill. So a lot of times you see some aftermarket parts in the front of a vehicle, like aftermarket headlights, cowl-inducted hood, aftermarket grill, things like that. They could have been in an accident, and whoever owned it decided to put aftermarket parts on it, or possibly there isn't anything wrong. But a lot of times when I see an aftermarket front end on a vehicle, I always look twice at it. Alright, to see if there's been any evident other damage to the vehicle besides the panels that have been changed, either due to somebody's taste or maybe because the vehicle was damaged and they decided, well, gee, I'm getting this much money, so I'm going to put some aftermarket parts on it and make it look cool. Okay? But same thing with your trucks. Get underneath them. Look at them for any oil leaks. Okay? Look at them for mud. You know, look at the frame on them. Okay? Get up underneath it. Look at the transfer case. See if there's any wetness at the transfer case. Look at the drive shafts. Okay? Look at the exhaust. Just visually inspect it. Alright, just get up underneath there. Look at cab mounts. Where the cab mounts to the frame, where the box mounts to the frame. Okay? I mean, this truck is a very solid truck, but it's not that old, but it does have a rot hole in the box. That's an automatic alarm. Okay, well, gee, the thing's already rusting out. It's only 7 years old. Alright, but that is common in New York State. Alright, take it down the road. Feel how the front end feels. See if the rear end clunks when you put it into gear. Listen to the engine for any noise or ticks when it's cold or even warm. Take it down the road. Make that, shift the transmission when it's cold, shift the transmission when it's warm. If it tends to shift differently when it's cold versus warm, there could be a possible failure in your future. Okay? Another thing to look at, tires. Alright, look at the tires on a car. Alright, see how good they are. Now, this car's got winter tires on it. This is a Pontiac Fiero. Okay, and it's got snow tires on it. There's no there's no evidence of this thing ever being in the snow. Alright, this is a very solid car up underneath. It is a plastic car though, so plastic cars do not rust. But another thing when it comes to the body, I bought this car at an auction, and I'm like, wow, the paint on it's beautiful, which I knew it wasn't original. But I didn't even notice myself until I got it home that this car wasn't even originally red. Okay? If you look here, you can see some silver. This car was originally silver. Alright? Look inside the doors. There's traces of overspray everywhere. Alright, factory doesn't have that. Alright, these are a panel that's actually bolted or used by adhesive or whatever, by fasteners. This is an outer skin onto a steel inner structure. Okay, so Corvette, same thing. On a Corvette, you see overspray in here where it's supposed to be black. That it's had some major paint work done. Also, another telltale sign is look at the inside of the gas door. It's all still silver. So this car very well may have been hit, when it was newer. Okay? The doors open and shut on this car pretty good. Alright? Not bad. Alright guys, now we'll go down and we'll look at my 1999 Silverado. More body stuff, okay, is what we're going to look at. And this is a good example. Alright, this truck, I've owned it for a year now. Alright, got it very, very, very cheap, and I put a plow on it. Okay, and that's another thing too. When you're looking at trucks and they have a plow on them, chances are they've been abused. Alright, plows are not easy on the frame, on the front ends, on the tire rod ends, wheel bearings. Alright, just in the truck in general. A lot of times you get stuck when you're plowing snow often. Okay? So, that's another thing. Listen to the rear end. Listen, feel the U-joints. Take it down the road. Listen for any odd noises. This truck doesn't look that bad. It's got a bunch of bubblage going on in the box. So, evidently, it does have some rot issues. Well, this, you peel the flare away, look at that. You can look right down in there and see that this box side is gone. Okay? When you see a truck like this, just take your hand and push on the box. That should not do that, guys. That should not be that flimsy, okay? And it is so flimsy because the whole lip of it's gone. The flare is hiding it, okay? A lot of times when you see fender flares on a truck, try to look behind them. Granted, a lot of times you can't get in behind them, but if you can, like this fender flare here is bolted on correctly. You can't get in there, so there really hasn't been work. But look, you see how loose that is? Up underneath there, I'll guarantee you, this fender's rotted out. You should not be able to push on that easy, okay? In this truck, this has door issues. Okay? Grab a hold of the bottom of the door, pick it up and down. Look at that. Okay? Needs either hinges or pins and bushings. Okay? Another thing. Look for odd wearing. Okay? Cobbled up wearing. Okay, that's actually what I did to put the plow on this truck. I did it very quick. Okay? But that's one, telltale sign too. Look underneath the dash. Make sure all the wiring's intact. There isn't duct tape and crappy wiring everywhere. Okay? Take a look around. See, there's a ton of leaves under here. Okay, which isn't good. That's a sign that a vehicle's been sitting, even though I did just wash this truck a couple days ago. Obviously, it's got a brand new alternator on it that I put on it last year. Okay, in this truck I have maintained, believe it or not, but not body wise. Okay, but I've gone through this truck and done a ton of mechanical stuff to it to make sure that it's a good, dependable vehicle. And this truck's got 160,000 plus miles on it, and it is in general a good truck. A lot of times with the GMC Canyons and the Envoys and the Chevy Colorados and the Trailblazers, look at the hoods. Okay, a lot of times they all rot out right here. Okay, where this is, the hood's all rot out, and a bug deflector is another telltale sign that possibly there's some hidden damage up underneath that. And a lot of times bug deflectors cause this because what happens is leaves and things lay down in here, and people never think to clean that when they wash it. So all that crap and moisture just lays down in there and rots the front edge of the hood out, okay? Now this particular truck too, it needs body work on the lower doors. Okay, it's all bubbled up. Now I gave the bottom of these doors a quick hack and pack last year. Obviously you see it did not hold up. Alright, but I did a quick job. I just ground it down, put some body filler on it, chip guarded it, and painted it. Nothing special. Also on these trucks, look for cab corner and rocker damage. Now I did put cab corners on this truck. I did not put rockers on it. Okay, is what I did do though, just to kind of sturdy it up, I did weld a piece of angle iron on here. Put a little body filler over it and freaking painted it. But if you get up underneath, you can see that the rocker panels are totally gone. Okay? So this truck needs rocker panels. To have rocker panels and cab corners installed on a truck like this is $1,000+ in most cases. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you're going to look at this truck and spend $5,000 for it, well, keep in mind you're going to have to spend another $1,000 on it to fix the body. Okay? A lot of times it's better just to spend the extra $600-700 for the cleaner truck and just use it like that if you plan on, you know, buying something that's more rotted out like this and painting it. Okay? And obviously for me, I paint for a living, so it wouldn't cost me $1,000. It would cost me about $400 in parts and paint and materials to repair this properly. I did do the cab corners on it last year. They were totally gone, like I said, and I just kind of botched up the rockers just so it would look good 10 feet away. Okay? But that's all stuff to look for, guys. Okay? This particular truck, the tailgate does work good on it. But look, it's all rotted out. Alright, all those bubbles are holes, guys. If I took my poke hammer to that would all be a hole. Alright, look down in here on the trucks. Make sure it's all solid right here in the box. Now, this particular truck is. Okay, but a lot of times, you know, you open a tailgate and it falls off or whatever, especially in the Fords, guys. All the Fords rot out. This whole panel rots out of the Fords. It's an expensive fix. It's a $400 to $500 repair to straighten that box out so you can get a tailgate to open and shut properly. Alright. Now this one here, I did a quick repair on it last year because it was all rotted out. You can actually see maybe where it's split right here. And I just took a little piece of metal and welded it in behind there just so my tailgate would open and shut. But to have that fixed, it would be $300 or $400. Alright, to take a piece and you know, weld a new piece in there and to form it and to paint it and to do a nice job. Alright, here we have a 1999 Pontiac Firebird. Most of these cars, the front ends, alright, the fenders and the doors are all plastic on them. Okay, it does have steel quarter panels. This is a Southern car, so there is no rust underneath it. But that little deal on the fender there where it's broken, it cost you $300 to $400 to replace that fender and have it painted and put on that car. Alright, and then on this particular car too, the door skin is actually separating. Alright, it's separating from the interior door. Alright, so that's, you know, that's got to be addressed because one of these days I might open this door and that's probably what happened, how that got broke. The door hit the fender and cracked the fender. Alright, I mean, it's all just little stuff, guys, but it all adds up. Okay, let's take this bad boy for a test drive. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how it shifts. We're going to see how it steers, see how it stops, listen for any weird noises, rattles, clunks, bangs. Check for vibrations. Check acceleration, see how it shifts. So far everything feels good. The steering seems nice and tight on it. Shifted well. Didn't hear any skipping, any hesitation, nothing. This road here isn't a very busy road that we're on. So what we're going to do, just at a low speed, we're doing what, 25 mile an hour? Just take the wheel and work it back and forth. See if you hear any weird noises. Everything feels good and tight. There's no slop in the steering wheel at all. It's very responsive. We'll just turn around here. I had an old Mercedes just like that back in the day. Diesel. It looks just like the one I had. Mine was a 66. 3-speed on the tree. I don't know what year that was, but it's damn close. And we'll get on it. Make sure it shifts good. Went through the gears really well. We'll just spike the brakes a little bit. Everything feels good. I did hear a little bit of a squeak though. Sounded like it was coming from the left rear. Also too, when you're driving a car, if you hear a little bit of a humming or a grinding noise, say you're going straight and you turn slightly to the left or to the right and that noise changes, more than likely it's a bad wheel bearing. Okay, this car is a bad example because it does not make any noise whatsoever. Everything seems good other than a little bit of a squeak out of the left rear brake. I do smell a little bit of brake material. So it's telling me that possibly the left rear caliper is hanging up on it. Just shifted into overdrive, nice and smooth. Strange noises whatsoever, just a little bit of noise out of that left rear brake. So when we get back, we'll just visually inspect that the best we can with a wheel on the car. There's no pulsation in the pedal, which is telling me the brake rotors are not warped. There's no grinding when you hit the brakes, so there's no metal to metal on the brakes. There is a little bit of a liner left, but that squealing noise is definitely telling me that the brakes are getting low. So we'll get out and we'll just visually look at the brakes the best we can. The front brakes look okay. There's no heavy grooves or anything in the rotors. Okay. It is normal for a brake rotor to have rust. Okay, right here though, where the pads, the surface of the pad is not hitting the rotor. All right, that is common. Okay, with brakes, calipers generally have a little bit of rust on them. Okay, this rear rotor, hopefully we can see in there, there is some pitting going on with it. Okay, this rotor will either need to be turned or replaced. And the noise that we heard, there's a steel bracket here on this brake. Okay, on the pads. It's actually just about hitting that rotor surface. So this car is definitely going to need some rear brakes, which isn't a big deal. But if you were to pay somebody to have that done, it'd probably be about $100 to $150 to have some pads put on it. Okay? So just keep all this stuff in mind. When you're driving a car down the road and you feel a vibration in the car, okay? If you feel it in your seat, generally, you know, if you feel it in your butt, it's generally something out of balance in the rear of the car. If the steering wheel is shaking, there's something out of balance in the front of the car. Something going on with the front wheels. If you feel it in your butt, there's something going on with the rear wheels. It could be something as simple as maybe a tire that's out of balance, okay? Or it could be something as severe as maybe the tire's ready to blow out, or there could be a bent rim. So that's also another thing to look into when you're looking at a car. When you're driving it, you know, where's the shake coming from if there is a shake? Visually look at the tires. Go around the tires with your hand on the top of the tread, even though the tread's good, but if you feel any imperfections with your hands, like all of a sudden you feel a bulge, it's going to need a tire. There's broken belts in it. Inspect the sidewalls of the tires. If there's a bulge on the outside of a tire, alright, it's going to need that tire replaced. That's unsafe. Now this particular car here looks like they whacked a curb or something with it, Alright, so it's got a little bit of a bend in the rim here. But this car does not shimmy or shake, so it's nothing to really worry about. The tire is holding air just fine, okay? Okay guys, well, we're going to conclude that for today's video. I hope this helped you out a little bit. Another thing to look for too, especially if it's a northern car, alright, check your gas lines if you want to crawl under it. Check the brake lines. You know, just check for any real heavy rust underneath the car. Okay, other than that, I think we covered most of it. If you guys have any questions and you're looking at a car, feel more than free to contact me via comment or personal message on on YouTube, and I will do the best I can do to get back to you and help you out with it. Okay? So you guys all have a great day, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.